Gaming Bolt presents 15 most shameless fake video game console ripoffs. Video game console knockoffs have been a mainstay of our industry ever since the days of the NES, right up into our current console generation. There have always been fake knockoffs that try to mimic the leaders of the market with not just their names, but also their looks. The results are often groan-inducing and always hilarious. Today, we're going to take a look at some of the most shameless and hilarious console knockoffs we've ever seen. If you have any suggestions that we failed to mention, sound off in the comment section below. WiiWii. What do you do when you're ripping off a console that has an already stupid name? You double it, of course. Literally in this case. The WiiWii, as you can imagine, is a Nintendo Wii knockoff. It has similar motion control capabilities, but that's where the similarities end. It produces horrible, dated visuals. Not that you'd expect 4K from a knockoff, but given its name, we're assuming it's not suitable for children. Doubly so. iDong. It's called iDong. It wants us to make fun of it. And it's a Kinect knockoff, as if being called the iDong wasn't bad enough, as is. It has a Kinect-like motion sensor, and it comes with a controller that looks a lot like a PlayStation Move controller. It's the ultimate stop for everything to do with motion gaming. Truly a console of the future. Dreamcast. This one is actually pretty neat. The Dreamcast is a portable version of Sega's Dreamcast, and for all the Dreamcast fans out there, of which there are plenty, that's like a dream come true. The Dreamcast had a number of great games to speak of, and to be able to play them again and to be able to play them on the go is surely not a bad thing. Super Polystation 2. The Polystation is a legendary brand in the console knockoff market, almost as legendary as the PlayStation itself. While it looks a great deal like the PS2, it only plays old-school 16-bit SNES-style games, and they're not even good. Still, if you have an annoying young nephew that you want to fool into thinking you bought him a PS2, this would be the way to go. Polystation 3. Unsurprisingly, the Polystation 3 looks a lot like the PS3, but rather than moving forward with respect to its predecessor in terms of the visual quality and the overall quality of the game it can play, the Polystation 3 only plays crappy-looking LCD games. Its library is only slightly better than the actual PS3's. I'm kidding, of course. Pop Station. This PSP ripoff is the most annoying thing you will ever hold in your hands. It plays awful-looking games that can bore a person to death and makes weird, annoying noises that will make your ears bleed. The Pop Station has a number of buttons that resemble well-known PlayStation buttons, but most of them don't even do anything. It works best as a paperweight, but we're assuming you already have your PSP for that. PCP Station. Take Xbox 360's face buttons and put them into a shape that vaguely resembles Sony's handhelds, and you get this mess. The PCP Station is another PSP clone, only this one's name includes the name of a hardcore drug. It is, in fact, quite similar to its namesake in that it is entirely unsuitable for people who want to keep their mental health, but for entirely different reasons. LTPS Handy Game. From the people who brought you the incredible PCP Station comes its technologically superior successor, the LTPS Handy Game. The Handy Game is a PSP Go knockoff, but unlike the real thing, it looks flimsy and cheap. It only plays blocky black and white games, but shrewdly tries to trick you into thinking otherwise by having a constant color background for its screen. Game Theory Admiral. The Game Theory Admiral looks almost exactly like the Game Boy Advance, but it is actually a portable emulator of the SNES and also has the capability to play NES games. Pretty cool to be completely honest, even if the build quality looks a little cheap. Oh, and its abbreviation is GTA. And if that doesn't convince you to buy this piece of hardware, nothing will. Game Joy Micro. Game Joy Micro. It is almost a Game Boy Micro, but it isn't. At first glance, it looks almost exactly like the real deal, minus a few details. Looking at it, you almost feel like you have to commend its creators for the excellent mimicking job they've done. We doubt it has the same excellent library as the real Game Boy Micro, but hey, at least it looks nice-ish. PX3600. The PX3600 is one of the most confusing things that has ever existed. It is the love child of the original PlayStation, the original Xbox, and the NES, but with none of their awesome libraries to go along with it. It's named like a killer robot sent from the future to kill you, and if you play it long enough, it will probably do just that. Power Player Super Joy 3. also known as random jumble of unconnected words followed by a number. The Power Player was actually quite popular back in the day. It was shaped like an N64 controller, came with another controller that looked a lot like a Genesis controller, and played NES games. It also came with a gun, presumably to play Duck Hunt ripoffs. Batman. This is the visual definition of the word confusion. It was called Batman, and yes, misspelled with 2 T's, looked vaguely like an Xbox and had PlayStation-like controllers. It came with a gun and a Famicom cartridge. Also, there was an image lifted straight from Batman and Robin and printed on its box. Really, what more can be said about this? They could have at least gone with a good Batman movie. Mega Drive Extreme. The Mega Drive Extreme was an amalgamation of a number of consoles, so that it didn't rip off just one system, but several of them. It is essentially a Sega Genesis clone, but it looked a lot like the original Xbox. Its controllers, however, were very similar to the original PlayStation controllers. Here's the weird part though. It had 6 face buttons. Yeah, 6. How the hell does that even work? Ouya. With a name like Ouya, you'd expect this to be an Ouya ripoff, but this was actually a brazen knockoff of both the PS4 and the Xbox One. The console itself looked almost exactly like the PS4, while the controller was a pretty faithful replica of the Xbox One controller. The system itself ran on an outdated version of Android. It was eventually canceled after it received criticism from its Chinese audiences for being such a blatant ripoff. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.